20th day of March, the year of our Lord 2023, a day whereby thousands of Kenyans have poured to the streets in what they have termed a date with destiny. This particular edition, the live broadcast of Siasa Brigade, looks into that entire event that has happened within the day, the mass action, and trying to look whether it has been spectacular failure on the side of Azimio leader Raila Odinga, or it has been a success as he and his supporters had envisioned. We'll be getting into the nitty-gritties of what has happened today, the national mass action. But first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Richard Mwenjem, your resident host here on Siasa Brigade. We come to you live every Monday here at 7:30 on Herman Manyora's channel. Indeed, it is always a pleasure and privilege to have you on board. With me, of course, to look into the entire issue and subject for the day is Kenya's most sought-after political analyst, the first of his name, Herman Bon Manyora. Adjusting your glasses.
Yes.
Ready to delve into the entire subject?
Correct.
Where have you been today? Have you been to town, though?
Well, I've been round and about. Round and about.
Is that just another word to describe you among the fearful kind of Kenyans who just sat back, never heeded to the call of Raila Odinga to point to the streets?
Manyora and fear cannot be used in the same sentence.
We have even seen ODM MPs that haven't gotten to the streets. We can name them.
Yeah, that is them. And I don't need to be in the streets. That's not my domain.
You can do that.
I operate in my own zone. Yeah.
In ways that you can.
In the ways that I can to serve my country.
All right. Remember, we're also live on Facebook, right here on YouTube and Facebook as well. So if you have your gadget with you on your hands, head over to Facebook, go to Herman Manyora page. Get there. You'll have a live link of us doing this broadcast. Join in. Keep your feedback coming. Also therein, you'll find several avenues that you can use to support the rollout of such conversations in the near future. So make sure you also support us. You can do that easily by using the super chat option on YouTube, which is also the easiest way, which I can identify with your comment and read it aloud here. And if it needs a response from Herman Bon Manyora, then he'll gladly do so within no time. And let's start over with the general analysis of the day's event. And even prior to today, sir, we saw Raila Odinga make a statement and say that on Monday 20th it will be a national holiday. Of course, he doesn't have the powers within himself to declare a day a national holiday. But if you look at how the day has unfolded, can you, from where you sit as a footnote, as also an elder and political analyst, would you kind of say that Raila Odinga by himself is a walking gazette notice, like a human gazette notice?
Beyond that.
There's more that he can do beyond just...
A man, you know, the truth is, for the past decade or so, the most powerful man in this country has been Raila Odinga. Spectacularly so, especially without state power. Nobody, I think, who doesn't enjoy state power could be half as powerful as Raila Odinga is. So when he declares a public holiday, indeed the streets of Nairobi were deserted today.
No one can come that close.
The only time there was activity in the streets of Nairobi was when police were engaged in running battles with demonstrators. So indeed, he has that kind of power.
A human gazette notice and even beyond that.
Beyond that, yes.
Now that you've talked about police, they have been the other variable that has been in play today beyond the Kenyans who went there to protest. And from how police conducted their affair, the Constitution, of course, mandates them to protect property and also protect life. It has been reported, and there is evidence. There are people who've succumbed to it. There are those who've got some life-threatening injuries, as well as we've seen exclusive footages of shops being robbed in town, M-Pesa shops, and all that thing. This was supposed to be a peaceful march, which the likes of Sifuna really did in the earlier part of the hours. And the police said, as long as it's peaceful, then we'll always support it. That is what has always been there in our constitution. Peaceful demonstration is allowed. But do you think that every other time the Kenyan police shortchanges protesters, even those who were peaceful? We saw Eric Omondi the other day, was very peaceful, but then tear gas canisters were lobbed, stones were pelted all over the place. Is this a long con that as long as it's peaceful, police will protect you?
It is the police who chose not to be peaceful today. From our observation, all of us, the protesters were peaceful.
Yeah.
It is the police who decided to be violent. It is the police, perhaps acting on orders from their seniors and the government, who chose to disobey the Constitution, which is regrettable. the state should use the instruments of violence against its own citizens. I think it's a bad thing.
It is a bad thing.
I think the police were strategically placed to ensure these demonstrations didn't take place.
From the onset.
Which I think is regrettable. Yeah.
But
on my part, I never wanted us to get there.
But it does happen.
Yeah. On my part, I would want Kenyans to sit down and talk so that we don't get there, because this country is too good to go down. I want to keep repeating that this country is too good to go down. I don't want to be proved wrong. I'm right. I would rather I remain wrong. I don't want Kenyans to get to a point and say, what is this we did to ourselves? We have such a good country. Why did we allow ourselves to get into an animal state?
Rock bottom.
So today I commend the demonstrators. They were peaceful. They were unarmed. There was no stone throwing, at least until perhaps if there's any, they were provoked by the police. It's the police we must ask. By basically asking their seniors, the government, not to use the police badly, because this is the police, they love tear gas. The people inhaling the tear gas are their fathers, their mothers, their sisters and brothers.
Some
and
are their children.
Yeah, their
at
children.
universities.
Yeah, so really. This is our country, all of us. We need to sit down and talk. I will not tire of saying this. Let the people call me all the names they want to call me, but I will never get tired of saying, let's sit down as people and talk.
A national
Kenya is
conversation.
too good to go down.
Very well, but don't you think the police are kind of justified for the actions they did today? Because earlier on, we saw the Nairobi police commander, that is Adamson Bungei, come and say, Azimio hasn't met the threshold for us even to guarantee them that they have the right to go to the streets and have protection from our side. Don't you think right from the start, Raila should have actually addressed the issues the Nairobi police commander,
the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, put together by the people of this country, has a provision that says that we should not pay undue and unnecessary regard to procedural issues. Let's deal with substance. Don't hide in simple procedures.
Threshold to be met.
No, come on. Who did know there was going to be a match here? You notify the police because you are a small boy in Kakamega. Nobody knows you. But when you are Raila and you have said you will be there on 20th, he doesn't even need to notify them.
To do that in writing.
You know, there's undue regard. They don't hide under procedure. That is cheap. We as a country, we are beyond that.
Very well.
We fought so hard to get to a point where we live like civilized human beings. You know, we can engage among ourselves with all due civility and you know, yeah.
Very well.
So that police officer should be told, please, this thing is too big even for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So many of you have already tuned in from different parts of the globe. Over 718 of you watching directly from different parts of the country and even the entire world. I'm seeing someone from Poland, Netherlands, DRC, Congo. Thank you so much. There are over 752 of you who've just joined in as per my latest check in here. Also comments coming in thick and fast. I'll be sampling some of them in no meantime. So what you need to do is just keep on your feedback coming. Trust you me, there is a 100% chance that I'll sample your comment. And if it's a question you are posing to Prof. Herman Manyora, then definitely he'll respond to it. But in the same breath also, remember to support us as we roll out these conversations. Displayed there on your screen is our M-Pesa number, our till number, and Super Chat option, which is one of the avenues you can use to support the rollout of such productions by Nairobi Review Company. Productions that we say are not for our own interests here per se, but productions that have the best interest of the citizen at heart, and also the interest of our politicians whom we voted for, just in the hope that they'll really make the right decisions when it comes to governance issues. So keep the conversation coming in, thick and fast. Definitely, I'll sample some of them. Let us go now to the Azimio camp with regards to today's events. And one person who's really been vibrant and more so a mouthpiece of Azimio today has been Junet Mohammed. And earlier on, right from the start of this mass action, he said today was just a dress rehearsal. There are going to be more of such protests and even bigger and even more successful. For many Kenyans who've been watching this, those in Sotik, Baringo, Kondele, or whatever part of the country this is, when it comes to next Monday, because it has also been declared among every other Monday that we'll have such protest, do you think Kenyans will turn out in large numbers from what they have observed today, or they'll actually, shy away because we've seen people lose lives there, property being destroyed. What do you think is going to happen in the coming Mondays?
I think so long as there are sufficient grievances, there will be people who will come out. There may be less, there may be more, it may be the same, but I do not see a situation where there can be no people turning out to march, to demonstrate, to express their displeasure with the current government in terms of the cost of living. So there will be people, certainly.
How about the magnitude probably scaling down in the near future?
It could be go up, it could go down. Depends on it depends on many things. Between now and Monday, there's a whole 7 days. There's room for people to do what I'm saying, to sit down and talk, and therefore there will be no need for that Monday. There is a possibility that the government could sneak in one or two things, making people think, well, there's not much need now to go out. So there's the possibility that third parties, like me, would push these two gentlemen into almost looking like they're about to talk. And for that reason, there are so many variables. You cannot say what Monday will look like. Between now and then, so much could happen that could either scale up the demonstrations or bring down or completely stop them, end them. Yeah.
Many are putting forward the argument that probably Raila should step back and just allow the new president, President William Ruto, is just about 8 months into office, to at least give him wiggle room to read his first budget so that issues that Raila is trying to raise, they can first be addressed within the budget that will be read in June, before now he can come and have issues to do with mass action. Do you think that he's actually doing Ruto disservice and literally pushing him overboard by within 8 months expecting all those grievances to be met?
You cannot open the server during the budget reading. So long as one of the demands is about opening the server, you cannot wait for the budget.
Electoral justice.
Electoral justice, about constitution of IBC. By the time the budget is read, perhaps IBC will be up and running. So there are things, yes, that can be addressed within the budget, but there are these two other issues and perhaps a lot more than that. They cannot be addressed during the budget. So, but the idea of giving somebody time is reasonable. It makes sense to give the government time, to give Ruto time. It makes sense. But you see the problem with our politicians, if they are given time, then they think they have won. Then they do chest thumping. Then they call themselves sons of Mau. But it is good to give them time. But then they too must be deserving of that time. You don't go and insult Raila and his people. You don't chest thump. You also should be magnanimous in victory.
Laughing off the mass protests.
Yeah, laughing off, then it comes. So really. But giving people time is reasonable. There's very little you can do within 6 months. But the intention can be seen. The problem with this government is squandered the time. It should have convinced Kenyans that we are in hard times,
and making sufficient efforts.
But we are going to move forward. So they spend a lot of time continuing with the campaign instead of showing they are already governing. They spend a lot of time looking behind and quarreling with Raila and these people. And their initial moves were to please outsiders much more than the people of this country.
Very well.
So that makes it difficult for people to give them time. Yeah.
You have actually analyzed, you and many other citizens who've been around for quite a long time, you've actually seen Raila Odinga when he was actually the Prime Minister, the many number of times he served as a Member of Parliament, and so on and so forth. Should he have actually clinched victory in as much as he's not the President? Do you think in just under 8 months, he could have actually done so much beyond what Ruto has done? Because many are saying, how sure are we even Raila himself, should he have been at status, by now he could have actually sold unga coming from 230 to 60 shillings. Magic.
I wrote an article in Nairobi Review, our website, Nairobi Review. And I said even if Raila had taken, he would just be facing the same challenges that Ruto is facing. So yeah, the truth be told. You see, this problem we have must be separated. There is the software of the problem and the hardware of the problem.
Vastly different things.
You see? So, instead of Ruto handling the software well, so that people can even understand when you don't handle the hardware well. Yeah. The hardware is just do things that you must do, the economy. The software is how individual human beings in this country relate and feel. how far they feel from their government and their president.
Yeah.
So that is what chance the president squandered, to deal with the software, so that you can be given chance to deal with the hardware, which is the economy. But now he squandered an opportunity to play politics well, so that when the politics is played well, you can even buy time to handle the economic issues, which sometimes may be beyond your control, beyond the country.
Some grace period.
Yeah, some international issues, some things you need to put in place.
Yeah.
Like I agree with the government. There are certain things you need to put in place. But how do you get chance to put things in place when you are messing the politics
Of the day.
Yeah. And I think politicians have a problem of not seeing things. After the election and before the election, Ruto was a very strong politician. He still is a very strong politician. How he got this feeling that he was under siege, some people are calling it sieke. How he got this feeling he needed to consolidate his power, I don't understand. There was no need for him. He was already so powerful that there was no point of invading Azimio. In fact, he would just have embraced them. But he was acting like a man who wasn't sure he had the power. People around these people, they never tell them things. They should have told him, my friend, you are powerful. You don't need to invade these small little people from Azimio. You don't need to keep insulting Raila. Just govern. Because the president is safe. And I've written about it also. I've said the president is so secure. I've never understood why he goes out of his way to invade Azimio, to insult the Kenya Raila, to do all those, to play bad politics, which is not good for a sitting head of state.
And the first term.
Yes.
Yeah. For that case.
There was no power for him to consolidate. He already had sufficient powers. We all knew, and everybody said, 2027, there will be no game. Everybody knew it, okay?
A walkover for him.
So now, it's like he's invited problems himself. There's still room for him to sit down with Raila, sort out this mess now, and then walk into 2027, a Moran who can just win the elections.
Early morning.
Yeah, of course.
Let's sample in some of the comments coming in and question post there in. Nashon Odongo says, this man Manyora, I salute you. You promised these things. Kenya needs you. You could be playing a vital role in Azimio if they could form a government.
Can you be sure?
All right, let's go straight to Etwoni Enene, who says, it was a successful mass action. I would have wanted it to be consecutively until they tore to the line. Kiburi Kingi, sio kitu cha maana. In the same breath, Rigathi Gachagua has come for the deputy president and said it is high time Raila tells his friend Uhuru, tells his friend Raila to call off these people doing the mass protest because business is hurting. We are losing billions in just a day. Do you think that is Gachagua adding salt to the injury when Kenyans are going there to complain about cost of living and you are telling them, as a country, as a nation, our revenue, we are losing it by the day? Do you think, he did himself self-harm by just making that pronouncement?
That is the software I'm saying is missing on the part of Kenya Kwanza government. Regarding the sooner he knows he's the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, the better. He seems not to have known. And I've said it so long. I don't know whether they ever listen. He's the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. And as the saying goes, a heartbeat away from the
presidency. It can happen anytime.
Yes, it's unfortunate, but it can happen. If he wants to be respected, he must respect Uhuru Kenyatta. There are no two ways about it. If Rigathi aspires to be the Mount Kenya kingpin, and I don't think he has a problem about that, with that. He can be the Mount. He's already there almost. He must learn to respect Uhuru Kenyatta. Because it's unfortunate, but I must say this, he's not Uhuru Kenyatta's equal. Not yet.
Not yet?
No, he's not.
Not a de facto kingpin.
Where Uhuru is sitting, Rigathi may just be told to sit outside, if he's like to be given a chair outside.
More of a water boy?
Outside, not inside, where Uhuru is. They are not equals. That's the truth. The truth sometimes is very painful. That is the truth.
He can buy power. He's in the position to do so.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
He's consolidating lieutenants. But
I'm telling you, Rigathi has a chance not just to be Mount Kenya kingpin, but to be the president of this country. But there are certain things he must do. First of all, he must know he's the deputy president. Secondly, he must know antagonizing Uhuru is not in his interests. You don't need to antagonize Uhuru Kenyatta to inherit Mount Kenya. It can just come naturally. When you insult and antagonize Uhuru,
And drag
there
him
is no way
such
you will inherit Mount Kenya kingdom. And finally, as of today, he's not Uhuru Kenyatta's equal. That he must know. You know, this is the truth. He's not his equal.
But you know the Nyamakima business community and many traders in Nairobi, even large-scale operators, mostly, I mean, if you retrace their origin, they're from Mount Kenya. And today was more like protecting the business community in which many of his kinsmen are coming from. Don't you think that obsession with protecting traders, that is his interest first before anything
Every
else?
Kenyan must be protected. That's why I've said, and I will not get tired, I'll just keep saying, we don't need these kind of situations. These are things to be avoided.
We could do better.
Because at the end of today, people have suffered losses. The country has suffered. The people of Kenya have suffered. There are people who left their houses, have not gone back, perhaps alive. Perhaps they are in hospital, injured.
They are there.
There are people, there must be a person whose lifetime saving is gone.
In just a flash.
Yeah. So this is a situation to be avoided. So you don't allow these situations to happen, then you jump to say, I want to protect my people.
Business traders.
The easier thing is to avoid this situation.
And protect all Kenyans.
Yeah.
All right.
It's so simple. Hii ni mtihani rais mbona wanaanguka kina Rigathi Gachagua. You don't jump to protect the Kikuyu.
Puts you in bad
You
taste.
jump to protect all Kenyans by avoiding situations such as today. Raila says that something similar will happen on Monday. I invite Rigathi Gachagua, William Ruto, Raila Odinga to think of ways of avoiding that. Because we have all seen. Anybody can say they have succeeded. Raila can say he has succeeded. Ruto can say he has succeeded. But they can't have succeeded. So long as Kenyans have not succeeded. So long as Kenyans have not won, you cannot say you have won. So long as Kenya has lost, you can't say you have won. And the country indeed today has lost. Because 500 jobs somewhere that were being manufactured today have gone down the drain. And those 500 people who would have been employed will be in the street mugging people.
Next Monday, they'll be in the
Yes,
streets.
they'll be mugging people. No, in future. How the economy works, you are the economist, you know.
Sure.
Something today didn't take place. A board meeting today didn't take place somewhere. And the decision being made in that board meeting is to do some expansion, which could have led to 300 jobs. That decision has not been made. It may not be made. Some investor was flying to Kenya tomorrow to come and do the final groundwork and put an investment worth $10 billion on the ground. He has given up. He has gone to some other place. So this kind of things must be avoided.
True.
Nobody ever gains because the country doesn't gain. Our boys and girls who should get jobs will not get jobs because of today. And therefore, how can you say you have won?
They are drawing lines on the sand.
Who? That is childish. That's what we did when we were boys.
Selling
I would hate to imagine my leaders are boys. I would hate to imagine I live in a country where my leaders are what I was 50 years ago.
Very
I
well.
would feel very sad to be a Kenyan. These are leaders. And the moment you are a leader, you must know you are. And more used to say it. It's like you are driving a bus full of Kenyans. My friend, you apply brakes when many people would not have applied brakes. And that's what Rigathi Gachagua and William Ruto would need to know. Moi was not a fool when occasionally he applied brakes
And even say it's Yasambaya.
and put in IPPG, talked to Kena Raila sometimes, and did one or two things, removed Section 2A. He was not a fool. He knew as a leader you'll have to apply brakes sometimes. You'll be annoyed and you have the power to do bad things, but you apply the brakes.
Not massaging one's ego and pride.
No, you know, as the president, and this is what I want the president to know. As a president, you have such enormous powers, and I've said it before. If you choose to use that power badly, then generations to come will be regretting why at some point the people of this country ever made somebody like you president.
A ruined legacy.
And for example, when I hear people laughing and saying, oh, they had system, they had the deep state, Uhuru had a lot of powers to do a lot of things. Ruto may not be president if Uhuru chose to use those powers, assuming he was with Raila. You can never know. The president has a lot of powers. I've said this before.
Sure.
And therefore, it is up to the president to be careful how you exercise the power.
Approach it with caution.
Caution. Because it's a lot of power.
And it could get to your head.
When you handle a lot of power, you have to be very careful. And sitting down with the opposition, I admire this lady south here. What do you call her? Samia Suluhu Hassan.
Yeah, Hassan.
She said that in the past it was just confrontation between government and opposition. But we have invited the opposition to have created a forum in which they have had sessions of discussing how to work together, how to take Tanzania ahead. Does she look any weaker by inviting the opposition to chat forward? There's an election coming, we shall compete. In between, there's work to be done. But even as we compete, and even as we enter the next election, what are the ground rules? How has the government in the past hampered the opposition's quest for power? What are the things you in the opposition think government has been doing wrongly over the years that makes you less competitive in an election? And you discuss those things. You'll still beat them. She'll beat them, definitely.
In the fullness of
she'll beat them.
In the same breath,
yes.
Now about talking of opposition and drawing to the table and sitting with the government of the day to discuss on how the nation can go on better, and also each party to serve their own interest, but for the larger interest of the Kenyan, of say Tanzanians in that case. On our part here, we have seen Kenya Kwanza administration field DP Gachagua and the face of the ruling party now, that is Senator Cleophas Malala, as those people to go and counter Raila Odinga. Malala just made a statement and said he's going to lead Kenya Kwanza followers and go and find Raila Odinga in his residence and repel him off. Also, on the side of Gachagua, he has said it's high time Uhuru talks to his friend Raila, they get out of the streets. If that's the trend that's going to go, happen, do you think there's even going to be that 1% chance that Rigathi can allow Ruto to even call Raila over the table?
Gachagua doesn't have to allow Ruto. The president of this country is Ruto, not Gachagua.
They made a deal before they formed government.
Forget about it. We only have one president at a time. And decisions coming from State House or Harambee House will come from Ruto. He may listen to these people and dismiss all of them. Or he may listen to them. So let's not blame Gachagua for nothing. It will have to be Ruto himself. As to Malala and Gachagua,
Malala is breathing fire.
Trying to mark Raila, surely, these are not his... How can you talk about Malala and Raila in the same sentence? He
went to Luo Nyanza, said he's going to paint it yellow. He's going to even make...
Which yellow? These are not... If I've said Gachagua is not Uhuru's equal.
Maybe it's Malala Raila.
And there's no way Gachagua is anywhere near Raila. And we cannot mention Malala. Malala is a boy, so let's be fair to him. And that's why I'm saying the young people in this country, those who listen to me, must also tell young people in this country, don't squander your chance. When you are given an opportunity as a young person, like Cleophas Malala, Cleo Malala, you are given the ruling party, the biggest political party, and you are given to be the Secretary General, and you are a young person. Do not spoil for other young people by acting juvenile. You should quickly mature and consult. Unless you are being used like an attack dog, which will be sad. Because every time a young man is given a serious responsibility and they mess that responsibility, you are messing and spoiling the chance for other young people. Because nobody will trust young people.
They'll never get the chance.
So what Malala is doing is juvenile.
Juvenile.
And so even if somebody hears, oh, another party is in power and he has looked for a young boy and made them the Secretary General, they'll say, now, look at this. They said the same was said of ANC when they picked a young man from G. Moranga or somewhere.
Yeah, sure.
You know, young people, you must be aware every time you do something. The world is looking at you and asking itself, can young people do something?
They have the mirror.
So these juvenile antics for Malala are spoiling for his age mates and his generation.
Talking about young legislators and the role they have played and pronouncements they have made with regards to this mass action call by Raila Odinga, on the side of the Azimio Brigade, we've seen selective loyalty apply today. There are many members of parliament from Azimio coalition who actually took a back seat. We haven't seen them, unlike what was expected by many of their supporters. We haven't seen the likes of Jalango taking to the streets, and a number of even governors from the Azimio side. When Raila is trying to make these radical surgeries for the betterment of the country and for every Kenyan at large, and his very own lieutenants, even the first mass protest call, they are not part of it. Doesn't it probably portend some sort of betrayal in the near future on the side of Azimio, and that Raila could easily lose his Fed if he's not going to have the full support of the House?
Struggles are not easy. They have never been easy. In the words of Lenin, Vladimir, better fewer but better.
Better few but better.
Because struggles are not easy. They are not your cup of tea. The moment you leave your house to go into the streets, you may not come back. You may die there. You may be arrested. You may be injured.
Lifetime injury.
So it takes serious commitment to dress and go and head there to do what Sifuna was doing today. It takes commitment of the highest possible level. And not everybody. Some people are just in power because they have a name.
Peter Salasy was there.
Yeah.
People expected Jalango to be there.
Jalango is
leading the march.
Jalango has said is not part of UDA, him and Agenda and the rest. So there are those people who are with Raila, but they are cowards. They have not been gone there. There are people who are still with Raila but sitting on the fence. Let's wait and see. There are people who, as a matter of principle, don't believe in this thing. We must also, and there must be people in Azimio who, as a matter of principle, don't think this is the right way to go. We must also give them their chance. Not everybody must see the way Raila is seeing it. There can be a gentleman who say, I'm Azimio, I support Raila, but to me, this is not the way. There are people like those. So this is about many people, and they can't all see the thing in the same way. But a majority of those are either cowards, fence-sitters, or those who have been compromised.
Talking about fence-sitters and cowards, I mean, if you look at Azimio Brigade and those people who really bring for the face value, oftentimes it is those politicians of Azimio domiciled in Nairobi or their counterparts in Kakamega or in Mombasa. Today, many people are looking for the face of Nasir. On the other side, looking for Fernandes Barasa. They are nowhere in the picture. And these are Raila's strongholds. And you've seen Ruto had kind of penetrated these strongholds in the recently concluded general elections. When this first mass action call is made, those two faces of Azimio are not there in. Does this portend probably to Raila losing grip of even his backyard?
I've told you struggles are not easy. I've told you there are people who reason, I'm a governor. A governor is like a president. Why would I go to the tear gas? In my nice suit. I'm attending a meeting today. I'm meeting donors. See, there are people who think like that.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you are getting what I'm trying to say.
I really.
So, does that mean perhaps Raila has no entry in Kakamega? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. But most likely no. Because the governor may not be the person to represent Kakamega in a way that if he said no to Raila, the people will follow him and say no to Raila. In fact, they could beat him. So these things are complex.
Yeah.
This is a revolution. And I keep repeating to anybody who cares to hear. This is a revolution. And many people slip through a revolution. When it is happening, many people don't know.
No.
And the revolutions are ways of eating their children.
Their very own children.
Like Orengo said.
Yeah.
But what people didn't understand, their children and grandchildren and grand cousins and, and nephews and what, they are categories. I would want to advise leaders, this is not a time to do certain things. Try to take a stand. If you believe this is not the right way to go, keep your stand. Cowards are the first victims of a revolution.
Cowards. So those who are calling people who never showed up to the street like Joho, that they're calling them, branding them cowards, they should actually stop.
I'm not saying everybody's a coward. Yeah. I have given categories.
Yeah, sure.
I said there are various reasons why people may not be there. including principle. Somebody can say, according to my thinking, this is not the way to go. That is not a coward. He could only be wrong in the way he's seeing. Because you see the problem with people, many people, very, very unfortunately, many people always confuse today for tomorrow and day after and next year. Many people.
Many people.
They see life in permanency. People don't see situations as evolving and dynamic and changing.
By the day.
Yeah, people, for that reason, many people sacrifice the future on the comfort of today. And then they have no future tomorrow. So then you ask them, so let me give you a very good example.
Sure.
Children should go to school.
Absolutely.
But some people may overplay that and say this is disturbing children going to school. But if you pause and ask yourself, children are going to school, so what? Oh, then they can make their future. Which future? Perhaps there's no future for them.
Even after scoring the S.
Perhaps in your thinking is, if my child went to school and passed, he will get a job. A job in which country?
Even with a degree.
There are no jobs.
Meritocracy.
There are hundreds of thousands of degree holders. As I speak to you, by government's own figures, there are 4,000 doctors. The people who are carried shoulder high after class 8.
Celebrations.
Carried shoulder high because they scored more than 400 marks, 430, 420.
Joined University of Nairobi.
No, before that, they went to Mangu High School, Lenana, Alliance, and they came with A, straight A.
The daily magazines, they were there.
84 points. 12.
Not employed. Come on.
4,000 of them have no jobs. Sasa wewe na kadigiri yako unapata kaka university kamstuni hapo unasema unapata kazi. In other words, there's need to balance between today and tomorrow and to understand how today affects tomorrow. Not to overlive. You cannot stop living today for tomorrow. But neither should you eat and sleep and get fat today only to discover that tomorrow your weight may be a problem.
Absolutely.
So in other words, even those who are reasoning that it may be, the struggle may be a wrong thing, I don't support it myself, and for my own reasons. My reasons are the differences between us as people are less than what separates us, what keeps us apart, is much less than what keeps us together.
Binding.
What is binding us as Kenyans is a lot more than what can separate us. And therefore, that is to say, the few things that can cause misunderstanding between us as Kenyans can be sorted out on a paper. You see, that's my thinking. Okay? But there are people with different sorts of thinking. I would wish my thinking prevails because it is always seen as cowardly. But it has saved many countries.
Rightly put there.
Many kingdoms were saved from destruction because the kings of those, when there were palace wars, they chose to sit down, including even kings abdicating to live for others.
Relinquishing their seats.
You know, you can't want power so badly as to get it at all costs. You can't enjoy your wine on the graves of people.
You can't.
You order your servants to bring you the best meals with somebody playing music for you and the best wine from the best vineyards on the graves of people.
Cannot happen.
You can't be a human being. You can only be an animal.
Rightly put there by Haman Bond Manyora. We are still going on with this conversation. Of course, there is so much that we are going to dissect into. We have all the time that we really need to look at the entire mass action that happened today. But before we get to that particular point, let me sample in some of your views that are coming in thick and fast. And thank you so much to our YouTube followers. Already over 1,700 of you are streaming in live from different parts of the globe. Also on Facebook, we have over 600 of you tuning in. Indeed, it is such a privilege and an honor from us to have you on board. We don't take it for granted. Every other day, we really pray for those numbers and also for you to take part in these national conversations so that it can make you a better citizen and a better patriot at heart, so that you can even make informed decisions when it comes to the election years when you have to really choose your leaders. Let me sample our views starting from the other side of YouTube. And a question is posed here by Dani Osolo, who says, Professor Haman, Maandamano also needs a lot of energy and lots of resources. How will the opposition go on for so long every Monday? Yet the elephant in the room is the resources. Where are they going to get that to sustain every protest on every other Monday?
You need resources for a struggle of this magnitude. So I agree with, it's called
Osolo.
Osolo. I agree with him. But there can never be a greater resource than the people themselves.
That's sufficient enough.
Yeah, the people is not enough.
Primary resource.
But that's, even if you had all the money and the people are not with you, will you put notes in town to demonstrate, to push for change? Currency notes. It's the people. Those people who went to the streets today, a good number of them didn't have a meal yesterday. They don't have a penny, but they were there. So there must be a cause. In other words, if you have resources, which you need actually, it makes it better. But you cannot say, because I have resources, let me order mass action. People just laugh at you.
So there are many thousands who actually showed up today, and unlike what many people perceive, they were never, it wasn't bought crowds, it was somewhat organic.
In fact, if I gave you 10 billion today and told you, get me a crowd of 5,000 people, you may not get it. Actually, if there was a situation such as that with all the police present, even if I gave you 10 billion and asked you to give me 1,000 people, you may not get there.
You could get the same for a campaign, but not for such a protest.
This is risky.
Way different.
This is risky. This is risky. This is high octane. And therefore, the resources must be necessary. But that is also the other danger now. You know, my love for this country makes me look at things a little more deeply than I should.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it disturbs me and my pressure sometimes goes up, my ulcers kick, because of, as I think about this country. You know, if it is prolonged and the resources it's talking about will set in, and how that there will be people who will want to fund this sort of chaos.
Really?
Yes, and their interest.
Commercialization of war?
Even the problems we have had in this world have been caused by interests. You begin to fight with your brother, and your neighbor supports your brother.
Finances.
Because he thinks if your brother is not in the picture, you could give him what my people call a few legs of the land. Unaweza kupima miguu mwambie hii kata hapo lete kidogo. So whenever two people are fighting, vita vya panzi, furaha kunguru. So if this sort of thing is provoked, I'll be very surprised if there will be no forces interested in funding one side or the other.
Very well.
Yeah.
Mary Mbogo says, Prof, I want to hear your take on opening the server issue. Do you think if the servers were opened or are opened, it will calm the opposition if by any chance those servers are opened and Ruto won? So what's next for Raila?
I don't want to bother myself about the servers. That is something I don't even understand how it works. So hypothetically, if that were to happen, supposing it happens like that, and then the other people say they took so long to doctor them. You have heard already claims of that nature.
Sure, doctoring.
So where will it lead us? The cycle will continue.
Anarchy all
that
over
we
the
told
place.
you to open servers in time, you didn't. Kumbe, you are doctoring the servers, and so on and so forth. I don't think that's the direction to go. The direction to go is for people to talk and find a way out. If you ask me how the elections were, I can, on top of my head, say there were issues with this election. On
The
top of my head,
integrity.
yeah. There were issues. If you ask me, the Supreme Court gave it to Ruto, I say I was not convinced with the judgment. I was not convinced.
Come on.
Of course.
And not just you. You think many other Kenyans
Many other Kenyans were not convinced. But that's the nature of law. That's how it works. And that's why the appeal process is there. That's why you win in the magistrate's court, it goes to the High Court, is overturned. You move to the Court of Appeal, the one of the High Court is overturned.
Now to the Supreme.
So, because a court's ruling is an opinion. is not a scientific thing.
Approach.
It is an opinion from a majority, if it's a bench constituted of 4, 5, 10, whatever they are. The number, of course, must be odd number most of the time. But it is still an opinion. And that opinion could be wrong.
And everyone has a right to the opinion, as you rightfully normally say in here. On Facebook, Regan Otoyo is among the 659 of you watching us directly on Facebook. We say Asante Sana. And Regan Otoyo says, people are the first resources, actually confirming what Professor Aman Manyora just said earlier on. Let me cross over to YouTube. And one of our followers, Fon Sostan, says, I don't understand why Professor Manyora abandoned Raila's mass demonstrations at the time that we needed him most for direction. Prof, do you see Ruto humbling himself to sit with Baba without being cornered? Start with yourself. Why were you not
First
there?
of all, assuming my role is what I'm playing now,
Yeah.
then you'll be pushing me to the Biafran War. And there was a poet called Christopher Kigbo.
Allah.
He decided to go on the war front. Such a fine poet. And he died on the war front. So I think I'm playing my role from where I'm playing, and that's safe. As to whether Ruto can give in before, how I pray that happens. But looking at his demeanor, his body language, his language in general, and the sort of person he seems to be, I think he might just act because he has been pushed. He's unlikely to willingly go on table and talk. I think he's the sort of people, and you can't blame him. We are all different. There are people who think they are tough, they can handle situations, which other people would have already decided, well, the better way of handling this is sitting down. I doubt that Ruto can willingly decide to go on table.
All right.
I think if he went to table, it will be because things have reached a point where he must go on table.
Very well.
But how I wish the two gentlemen sat down together early as yesterday.
If not today.
Then whoever suffered today should not have suffered. Whoever will suffer on Monday, then he will not suffer.
Much as you are calling for these two gentlemen to meet over the table, you know, someone can come over the table like we are seated across each other, but I don't come with an open arm. I come with my my fist folded. So
yes,
it is not just about Ruto calling Raila for a dialogue. Are you supporting the argument that they should go there with an open arm, not conditional?
Of course, they can never be good dialogue if you go with your fist. That's not, you don't extend your hand when it is fisted. But it is better than nothing. Many negotiations start with very high demands, hardline stance, hardened positions, and they keep softening until people sit down and agree on something. The most important thing for now is for people to agree to sit down. Their positions notwithstanding. They sit down first. To agree to sit down is a major achievement, a major score. If Raila and Ruto say we are meeting, that to me is more important than the details of their positions of each.
Just by meeting, many Kenyans will
celebrate. Yes, of course, even by saying we are going to meet, then Ruto will give his demands for even attending the meeting. Certainly he will give the demand, and Raila will give. But that's one important step.
That could be a landmark history. And
just like Neil Armstrong said, one small step, one giant step for man, or like that, a giant leap for mankind. That when the man landed on the moon, Neil Armstrong,
Apollo,
when he was making Apollo 9 or something, when he, you know, because of the gravity, you make very crazy steps. And so he was talking back to the earth and saying, one step by man, he himself now, but a giant leap for mankind.
Indeed.
So that one step Ruto will make towards Raila, it will mean so much for this country. How I pray that happens, and I will not get tired of telling these two gentlemen, Kenya is too big to go down.
Kenya is too big to go down.
Correct.
Before we advance that conversation further, let me sample two more comments that are coming in here on YouTube, even as many of you continue sending in your feedback on Facebook. And Stanley Ochieng says, Raila has been in the political scene for long. This guy is a seasoned political enigma. Mobilizing resources can't be a problem for him. He only needs the voice of the people. Prof, are you literally now confirming what Stanley Ocheng believes in? Raila doesn't really need to worry about resources. He only needs the voice of the people. For him, resources is, I mean, he can get it anytime.
You still need resources. You still need resources, but the people come first. On the chart, on the scale of 0 to 10, people occupy almost 7. But there's still 3 to go. If you go to 1 or 2 to 9, I mean the war is already won. So you need the people, you need the resources. But I think the people are more.
The people.
Once the people are with you, and today has demonstrated to anybody who wasn't believing, because we have said these things repeatedly. Raila is a powerful man, and he has the people on his side. You can choose not to agree, but the numbers I saw are not numbers just about anybody can get.
Very well.
Those are very serious numbers.
Talking matters numbers, and you've watched the live proceedings on TV, and you could make some comparison on how the mass action was happening in Kisumu vis-a-vis here in Nairobi.
Yes.
We saw thousands pouring to the streets in Kisumu. This is one of the cities that even has been reported internationally and been branded the hotbed of violence and kind of terror.
Yes.
For Raila Odinga, does this somehow impound in him, I mean, the bad tag of the Lord of Violence in this country? Don't you think it's high time he worries, about the tag, the Lord of Violence, even as he almost exits the
I don't think
scene?
so. I don't think so. The fact that there are people who perhaps are more political than others doesn't turn them into
Lots of violence.
Lots of violence. In the history of this country, I think there's a point you mentioned today. You mentioned Kakamega, what I thought that's where you are going. The history of this country demonstrates that the Luhya and the Luo have been the most political group.
Politically active.
And the evidence is there.
Martin Shikuku.
From the trade union movement.
Tom
They
Mboya.
have led it since before independence today. Okay? There was Tom Mboya, there was Akumu, there have been people. And then in the politics, it was the Luos and the Luyas who were most prominent in the politics of this country. You go to any school, when elections are called for student leadership in universities and where, you'll find more Luos than Luyas. So it's a natural thing, and maybe it is a bit of their history. And it's very simple for those who don't know. For those who don't know, it is the Luos and the Luyas who are recruited into the labor force. The Maasai were too hostile, the Kamba are hostile, the Kikuyu had money to pay off the taxes, so they didn't want to work for the Mzungu.
The coastal people are just
And
relaxing.
then the Luyas left their home to come to work, and therefore part of this is part of people's history. Yeah, and then the independence heroes. If you came from the land of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, and the role he has played in the politics of this country, certainly the community will be much more political than other communities. And finally, the Luo have felt betrayed and persecuted over the years.
Oftentimes.
You expect them to be more agitated than other people in this country. So,
It has nothing to do with, it could probably ruin the legacy of Raila now that he's almost coming to retirement.
how little, in fact, let me tell you this. We may hate it, we may not see it.
Yeah.
But sometimes when I look at the educated people, I just look at them and sometimes I ask them, are you saying this because you are a Luhya or a Kalenjin or a Kikuyu? Or are you saying this because you support Raila or Uhuru or what? Sometimes a little intelligence and
really
honesty, intellectual honesty is good.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the benefits we are having in this country, the democratic air we breathe, good governance, good electoral, the little we have achieved in terms of electoral
justice.
things,
Yeah.
justice. Surely the Luos more than anybody else have brought this. I remember one day seeing the letter Kajwang
Kajwang.
of Mapambano Bada Mapamba. He said, we have suffered enough. Let us live like other Kenyans. We have fought for this country long enough. Watch a yaribike. If this country is good, it won't be good for Luos only.
Mambo Ichemke.
The Luos have sacrificed for this country. We are eating off the back of Luos, all of us. Let's not pretend it's not true. Because it's true.
Kikuyu say Mama was
If
there.
they were not, just like we must appreciate what the Kikuyus did
With guerrilla
in the
warfare.
lead up to independence. So if you say that the Kikuyus sacrificed and died in detention camps and other things, that we may enjoy what we are enjoying, that is okay to some people.
Yeah.
But if you say the Luos have fought and suffered to make Kenya enjoy the benefits we are enjoying today, then that becomes an issue to people. I think it's time we honor our history by looking at a few home truths and say, yes, we need to bring up a society where we are all equal.
All right.
And let me tell you this. There's a weekend for weddings in this town. If you do a research, people call simple things like those research. That's why I hate these scholars. So if you just try to find out, let's say there are 100 weddings in Nairobi. Do you know more than 50% are of mixed ethnicities, mixed tribes? Almost 50% plus. You find a Luo marrying a Kikuyu, a Kalenjin marrying a Luya. What does that tell you? We are so much the same people in this country that if it is not for our politics, because there are many countries that would love to be a mixture of cultures and languages the way we are.
Diversity.
Yes. Say kind of thing. There are many people, countries that will die to be like us. And indeed our people are together. So we only mess it in politics. When we try to militarize our politics, to tribalize everything and militarize the tribe in order to get votes. But basically, we are the same people. And certainly, like in all areas of human interaction, we all can make the same contributions. There are those who contribute to the growth of this country in a certain way. There are others who contribute like this. And over the years, the Luos have contributed for being the people who stand out to check the excesses of government. And like I've told you, at great cost. When this is documented, including Obama's father, he didn't get what he deserved. Of course, some people say he had his own social issues. But because he was a Luo, there are many Luos who have been denied promotions over the years just because they were Luos. There are many Luos who have suffered.
In public service?
Yes, obvious. If you ask people to come to Nyayo Stadium and tell you how they have been treated in the public service from 1960,
because their name was Opondo.
because they were Luos, you'll cry. You'll cry. There were people, even at the University of Nairobi. There were senior professors when the university became a university. It was Luyas and Luos who were professors. They brought Johnson, Dr. Karanja, from the British High Commissioner. And the professors were there, senior, but just because the professors were Luos and Luyas.
So a cocktail of such issues is what actually is the
what
fire.
the BBI was about, what the handshake was about between Uhuru and Raila. But look here, let's own our past. And let's deal with it. You must, as a country, I've repeated, face your demons.
Head on.
Head on. And then going forward, you live as peacefully as people can live. It can't be 100% peacefully. Because there will always be conflicts. But manageable conflicts. But when you kick the can down the road, you keep sweeping things under the carpet, the room will begin to smell. And diseases will erupt. And you will die. So it's good for us to appreciate each other and the roles they have played and to clean a bit of what is our mess in the past.
Right.
And not wait for people to go to the streets to destroy the little we have made.
The little
You can imagine if there's another thing on Monday and another Monday, surely.
Which actually begs the question.
Yes.
We probably have potential investors who are looking at Kenya as a potential ground to
Yes.
tap the investments there in. Don't you think very soon, if this goes on, we are going to see the issue of travel advisories being issued?
You are going to see, or they're already there.
Kenya Airways has actually made one. Don't visit Kenya and all that.
They are there. They are there. So
So
they
the
are not
economy
good
can
for.
actually even plummet
Let me
further.
tell you. I want to tell Kenyans something, and this is why our ambassadors are just jokers. Trade ministers have been jokers, and they are jokers, and envoys they're just jokers, and
The case for bilateral ties,
attachés, business,
military attaches.
not military. These people, business, what have you? These are all useless trade attachés. Do you know a man who manufactures shoes somewhere in Italy, you know, places special or these Chinese and other places.
Or Turkey.
You all think these things are done in big factories. Sometimes they're just done in a small village, a family. And then you go rushing to buy shoes and suits. You think they are done in the factories. Sometimes just, supposing that man has enough money and he'd want to invest somewhere in Africa because of cheap labor and other skins and hides. I want to tell Kenyans this. Do you know there are people across the world who think if you stepped in Kenya, you can only be safe in a 5-star hotel or in a very exclusive leafy suburb of Nairobi, like Runda and the rest, Gigiri. They think anytime they walk somewhere, people will pounce on them. Now, such a person does not know they can come to my village in Luombei. By the way, I've seen my son has put up shops there, and there's electricity and there's water. He can come just as those things put up by my son and start a factory there. And the locals will be such a friends to him. They will sell him greens and they will work for him. If anybody attacked him, they will protect him. They can't know. They think it is like suicide.
They mean it.
That's what I'm saying. Does Kenya ever take time to tell people you can come in the middle of Kitale somewhere in Trans Nzoia, in a small village, and set up a factory there?
And hit the ground running.
People think if you come to only a 5-star hotel or Gigiri, you can stay in Gigiri and such a place, Riverside. They can't believe you can now
go to Juja.
So now that is the position today as we talk.
Yeah.
Now when you have riots like today, where does it take it now?
Economy plunges.
No, I'm saying a person who can't believe, and there are many, would want to invest in Kenya. But they think even physically they can never stay anywhere beyond a 5-star hotel or a five-star neighborhood.
They pull back further.
Now, if they can't believe you can invest in Kitale,
and
today they think they can't be safe. Now you are making it so bad by having this demonstration. They think, oh,
let's go to Nigeria. Let's try Nigeria.
They can't imagine it. They can't imagine. And there are so many investors who want to come to Africa. But they go to saturated places, Mexico, Egypt, China, Indonesia, because those ones have established themselves as at least places where you can be safe. These investors don't know you are safer in Kenya anywhere in this country than you can be in New York City. They don't know. They don't know the investment opportunities in terms of labor, not just labor, trade, labor laws, industrial relations, in terms of certain local materials you can get locally.
Resource endowment. The
resources for value addition abound in Africa, in Kenya. But nobody tells them this thing. Then, when I'm crying that government should be sending people like me to be ambassadors to sell Kenya, then this Monday happens. Oh God.
And the political appointees given the position.
And then Monday happens like it's happening. A bad situation is made now worse, terrible. And we say our children want job. And I want to tell Kenyans, and these leaders of ours, Raila, Ruto and the rest, Kenya is going to be a very dangerous place to live in. Already in some areas, it's very dangerous. Those of us who go to the village, let me tell Kenyans who don't know. There are certain crops that you cannot plant in the village today where I come from. You plant bananas, even before they put something properly, somebody amekata.
Hunger.
Sugar cane, before they even put those things, 3 of them. Cassavas, before they even get this, there have been boys coming from the funerals.
Empty stomachs?
The last time I was home, it was so dry. You know what they had done?
No.
They had gone to the river, nearby river, a stream, and they watered the ground, the shamba, where the cassava is, because cassavas you can only do them like this. Okay? Walimwagilia maji mihogo, the soil to soften for them to plug them out of the soil.
Very well.
That is the sort of country we now have. And it's not because our boys are basically bad. Of course, there are things government is not dealing with,
Right.
like excess alcohol and drugs, and very bad, in Western we are getting very bad drinks from our neighboring countries, very lethal. When the government is chasing people from making Changai and Busa, very lethal stuff is coming from across the border. Of course, that's part of it. But it's also because we have been unable to place our children. They are jobless. And we can't blame them. So what am I trying to say? Living in the village today is almost difficult. If you have something, they will come for you. And therefore, when I talk about Kenya being too good to go down, I'm saying Kenya will go down if we have millions and millions of educated young men and women jobless. The country will go down because you can't even walk in Nairobi streets. It will be very difficult for you to walk in Nairobi. There are towns like that in this world. So we are making it worse. We can't even handle our economy to create jobs for our children. And the little we have, we are destroying through these mandamanos. And we are having these mandamanos not because Raila is bad. We are having these mandamanos because we don't want to be reasonable. We don't want to sit on a table as brothers and sisters and discuss whatever differences there are. That never made anybody weak. Sitting down with another person to discuss has never made anybody weak.
Broke no bones.
In fact, for the president, he will come out very strong. People will celebrate him. So now,
a statesman.
This is a statesman. Sit down with Raila, talk to him. Tell Raila, lakini mambo ya kiti yangu hii, wacha tuongee mambo mengine.
Talking about matters Raila kutaka hiyo kiti,
yes.
If you go down memory lane, he has used this very same antic, or I should say this very same strategy
yes.
in 2017 and even in 2007 with Kibaki. He's using the same strategy, but this time round expecting different results. When other times it has actually bore the same fruit of a handshake and just getting part of government. This time round it is even further. He's demanding Ruto must go. It's even the hashtag that ODM party is propagating and Kenyans who are following behind Raila Odinga. Would you say that using the same antics will actually yield so much better than what it has actually done in the past?
You know, it will be very bad to talk about Raila in that manner, that he's using antics and, you know.
Same strategy then?
I think I have said repeatedly, it's very difficult being Raila. And I think we are forcing Raila into regretting that he's done so much for this country. In 2007, what Raila did, many of these people I'm seeing around would not have done it. And he annoyed very many people, including the current president, for giving in.
To the coalition government?
Miguna said Raila is a coward.
Several times he has said so.
In other countries, most memorable Ivory Coast and people of that, somebody like Raila would just have sworn himself in 2007. And this country would never have been the same. We would not be here talking about Kenya if Raila did what many people would have done in his place. Instead, he chose to be a statesman and share his victory with a person who didn't win and actually be junior to him. If that is antiques, if that is looking for power like people say, then I don't know what we are talking about. We've been lucky as a country. We must not tempt fate. We must not stretch our luck. If Raila did what most people would have done in 2007, perhaps this country as we know it will not be there. In 2017, I hear people rubbishing the handshake, but I was just as old as I am. And just yesterday, maybe because I'm not a politician, I'm able to be objective. Those who occupy power today, does it ever cross their mind that perhaps there will be no country to rule? Do we know the countries which have gone down for less than what we as a country have gone through? Do we know that in 2017, going into 2018, this country would have been wiped out?
Taken to the ruins?
We will not be having a country. We will be A good number of people will be refugees and others in exile. So when we see people coming to the Dadaab refugee camp, and we think their problems were so huge.
The other was just
the Somali people speak one language, have one religion.
They are now in refugee camps. They are exiled. We should not tempt fate.
Let's not tempt fate. Let's not think we are special. And therefore, a human being whose victory has been robbed, to agree to sit down with the person who has robbed him of their victory and shake hands. Instead of celebrating a human being like that, we call him names. We say he's power hungry.
Looking for a deal in the
looking for, it is so painful being Raila. I think it's difficult being Raila. Sometimes I sympathize. When I look at that old man, I say, I think being Raila is difficult.
Then if being Raila is difficult and he's actually have to go through all this, yes, then what would you say is still giving him the fire inside his belly to push even beyond such?
That is the question you must ask yourself. And that answers those questions of the people who think he's looking for power, handshake, what have you.
Trade deals and all that.
In the world, there will always be people, except there are always few, who think of the greater good, who think of society.
At whatever cost.
Who think of generations to come, who fight for good. They have been there. People have rubbished them. I gave an example recently in one of our shows here. After the industrial, on the onset of is it you are telling?
Yeah,
after the industrial revolution.
Yeah.
People don't know people are working under very terrible conditions. Those of who have read literature and read Charles Dickens, you can see the conditions in the factories then, the first factories. They were impossible. People were working for 18 hours, 16 hours. Children were working for 12 hours. People who began to fight that let children work at least for 10 hours. People called them names. Until even sometimes when people said music would be blaring in the factories, when people are working, people almost beat them. So what are you talking about? But today you go to the back, that's music.
Work songs.
You see, yeah. People see ahead and say, the world must be a better place.
With thoroughness and
human beings are in a prison. And like Karl Marx said, you have everything to lose except your chain. Your chains. Just your chains. Rise, workers and unite and fight. What you are going to lose are just your chains. So even people in very horrible conditions, because of years of conditioning, man begins to believe that he's okay. And for that reason, those in society who agitate for change are seen as troublemakers, even in school. When conditions are so bad, and 3, 4, 5 of us are saying, let's change. Why is the principal treating us, headmaster is treating us like we are slaves in this school?
Running the show.
People say, this is what tunataka kutuharibia, tunataka tumalize tuende.
Maliza enda.
So Raila belongs to the few who in society would want good.
Greater good?
Yeah. And it's not about them. It's about society. They believe in something for which they are willing to sacrifice and die. He's not alone. There are people who have died for this country. Okay? There are people who have given everything they had for this country. Some of them we don't even know them. Some we knew but we can't remember. Some nobody has known. And mark the graves, they are called. Like those and Toby Manyara, James Orengo. And you can go on Gitari, Bishop Gitari, Alexander Muge.
Desmond Tutu.
If it wasn't for people like those across the world and across in our country specifically, what would this country be like? Because power concedes nothing. Governments are conservative. Governments give very little, if not nothing. Government does not give citizens space unless citizens push for the space. You get it?
Sure.
That's why, and some people will say, that's how come there are countries that have been with us under dictatorships in the 1960s and 70s. They are still so backwards in every respect, in politics. There's a time, and this is the last thing perhaps I'll say because of time. I can see your director screaming.
No, we still have a few more minutes.
I went for a workshop somewhere, and we are people from different countries. And there are guys who are telling me, you Kenyans, you are like, tupatieni huyo Moi akuja tutawale.
Moi?
Yes.
Come on.
We asked them, what are you talking about? Tunataka huyo mzee tupatieni, tuaja tutawale sisi.
Daniel Toroitich.
So, we made strides in our politics. We made strides in social and economic development.
Sufficient strides.
They are not sufficient. There are countries in this world, specifically in Africa, some of them in Asia and Latin America, where to do a malaria parasite test, you'll need to go to the what we are calling regional headquarters. If you are in Central, somewhere you need to go to Nyeri. You need to go to Kisumu and Kakamega. Elsewhere you can't get a malaria parasite test. Things simple. To get a man who can fix your electricity.
Or plumber.
I mean, simple things we take for granted in Kenya here are still a mirage to many of our fellow Africans across the continent. And why have we reached there? We have reached there because governments, successive governments, have been pushed by people like Raila to open up space, to let Kenyans express their free will, to let Kenyans realize their best and their potential. You get it? So I don't want us to be insulting people like those. People like Matiba, they gave in everything.
Even Martha Karua did.
People like Martha Karua.
And they are still on the game.
If Martha Karua wanted to be a billionaire, she would be a stinking billionaire.
Long time ago.
She was minister in charge of water. It is only in water, and contracts are in water and energy, whose values people don't know. At least roads people have begun to know, because they know a kilometer per road. Those ones people now know. Even if you steal, you can't steal a lot. But water, even now, that's why you find all sort of shady contracts. She was there, she didn't. So, if Raila just wanted to enjoy his life, my friend, he would have enjoyed his life. He has wasted all his youth.
He by now could have been Aliko Dangote of Kenya.
Yeah, he would be rich and just enjoying life. There are people who could even have taken up UN jobs.
Permanent representative.
But they chose to come and work for this miserable country.
Very well. And allow me withdraw Herman Manyora's statement, particularly that to do with that we have probably a minute to go. No. We are here still going on with this conversation.
Yes, okay.
Probably just needs to get a cup of water.
Okay.
Or tea for that case. But trust
water.
you me, there are about 300 of you who actually just got off. You need to come back. We are pushing through this conversation even beyond 9 p.m. So we still have about 20 or more minutes to go. But at this time, I'm seeing over 1,400 of you watching us on YouTube from different parts of the globe. On Facebook, it's over 600 of you. We say asanteni sana. And in the same breath, how about you support us as we roll out such productions? They'll actually be more informative and insightful, especially now that we are seeing a national call for mass protest, just so to make this country a better place. And we'll also be rolling out this conversation so that we also get the side of response from the sitting government that is led by President William Ruto. You can easily do that, supporting thing by using the M-Pesa number displayed on your screen. We also have our till number. And the easiest and the most efficient of them all, because this will also help you be credited here on the channel, is using the super chat option, where I can easily identify with your comment and I'll definitely read it aloud for Professor to respond to, or if it's a question, answer it, or just have us compliment you for supporting us. So use super chat option. I'm seeing so many of you are asking about it. It's right there on your screen. Just tap that button and send us your support. Let's now cross over to a number of issues that you people are picking concern with regards to this particular conversation, and that has to do with what's happening in Tunisia, in South Africa, and different other nations. It is similar to what was happening before independence of many states in Africa, where we saw people supporting Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, others supporting Mandela in South Africa. It is sort of making a comeback. Would you say that this is the much needed war chest if African leaders are going to spearhead interest to do with economic freedom and all that? That we do it in Nigeria, at the same time we do it in Kenya, we do it in South Africa. Are they trying to orchestrate what was happening before independence?
No, you see, I want to repeat that I don't like this kind of things. This is the 21st century, for heaven's sake. Let us not rejoice in the fact that people are burning tires and others are throwing tear gas. That is primitive. Because we can't do them peacefully like in France, for example. Ours are primitive. The slightest provocation, the police are throwing tear gas, using those vehicles I used to see in Soweto. Now we brought in Kenya. It's so painful. You know, as an African, I feel very painful. What we need to do is to avoid situations of that nature. And they are not difficult to avoid. In South Africa, it's about electricity, mainly. In Nigeria, it's about police brutality and an election gone wrong. These are things people can discuss. What is so difficult about countrymen sitting down to discuss their problems? That's the way to go.
Runaway cost of living.
Either we do these things in parliament, or we create forums for national conversations. Whenever something has gone wrong, people talk about it. Other things, we get a referendum on it. Ask Kenyans, now look, this is bringing us all this mess. What do you think as Kenyans? Then Kenyans vote and tell us, look here, you politicians, since you have refused to behave well, we are curtailing your powers. A bit of that powers we are giving to this body. When you grow up, we shall give you more power. You know, that's how I would want to see it.
Very well.
I don't want to celebrate the fact that things are in South Africa, they're in Nigeria, Tunisia, where, no.
Going back to
No, 21st century, people are not doing those kind of things. 21st century,
supporting your brother.
Kenyans are sitting to get on a table called Kenya. Taking Kenyan tea. If you like coffee, you take Kenyan coffee.
From Ruiru.
Yes. Perhaps eating Kenyan bananas or matoke as a snack. Healthy food from Kenya.
And
sure enough. Somebody else is eating some cassava, but the boys have uprooted the cassavas before they grow. So, then you say, why are we fighting? Why are we in the streets?
First question.
Then you say, but wewe unajua uliiba kura yangu. Anakwambia niliiba, ulikuwa umeangalia wapi? Wewe chanuka next time, eh?
Our commissioners to take a...
okay, you know,
we'll balance.
Let me tell you something. I've been at the University of Nairobi for a while. There used to be a VC called Geshaga. The guy is still there. Students will go looking for him when they are very agitated. He had a trademark tie and his beard. They would just say, what is your problem? Sit down, let's have it. Just like that. And what was so serious,
a solution would come up.
Oh, they just take tea with him and...
Simple solutions.
Sometimes they even go to his coat pocket, they remove some money and he just laughs. I think you need a beer. What do you think is serious? What is there to be serious about?
Just call Raila.
Even this power people are looking for. I want to say this. Power is 90% illusion. What you call power is illusion. 90%.
Come on.
And the 10% you remain with is transient. So what is power? Power is rubbish.
You can
90% illusion. What do you think? I'm so powerful. It's just an illusion. And the remaining 10%, it's just together with the other 90. Power is transient. One day you are entering the arena with all the celebrations, people shouting, wow, your name, clapping, your relations. Next time you are leaving the arena with your head down crying.
Crestfallen.
Yes, somebody else is entering the same arena. Why can't people see that power is useless? But I must finish by telling our leaders, why would you want to fight so hard to be a president in a poor, dirty third world country? Is it really worth the struggle? These are small countries.
There should be a higher
If you went to New York and asked people, Kenya, 99.99% of the people you interview in London may not know what Kenya is.
Even the president's name?
Those who know will say, oh, is it in Nigeria? Is it a town in Nigeria?
Not even where the wildebeest cross over Mara River. They don't even know that.
They could hear remotely. I was so annoyed one day. I told somebody in South Africa that I was a Kenyan, and he didn't know what Kenya was. I was so annoyed.
Come on.
I almost slapped him.
Really?
I even tried to say where runners come from. The idiot still didn't know. I'm so annoyed.
You could have said,
I didn't know I loved this country the way that's the day I knew how much I love Kenya.
a patriot at
So
heart.
even being a minister in a country like this, it's a small job.
You saw during the Queen's burial, what happened?
Yeah, someone attacked me and said, no, I was wrong. This is a small, poor, dirty, third world country. Whose economy is not even, I don't know what, of California, a state in America.
We shouldn't accommodate such actions.
The budget of Coca-Cola in Atlanta, Georgia, for research is more than our budget. So what is so big about?
Come on.
I'm trying to make people
I get
put things in proportions.
much as it's called the
That it's
wealthiest
good.
country.
It's
in
good
Africa.
to look for power.
Yeah.
But I've seen even at the university somebody's campaigning to be a dean. And he's campaigning like this. He will become the president of the world.
Just a din.
These are small things. And the moment you know that power is transient
And illusional.
and illusional, the better for you. And you'll moderate your quest for power and how you relate with other people in that contestation of power. Because power, there's always contestation. So if you blow things out of proportion, you are likely to be obstinate about certain things which actually were just small things. Because it is unlikely, for example, that in a conversation between Raila and Ruto, it's unlikely that Ruto will lose much.
Unlikely.
It's unlikely.
Very unlikely. We wait to see. In the
Because I think people like Raila, all they want is what is good for the country. Even if it doesn't translate to them becoming president. Can this process at least guarantee a fair, credible election in 2027?
That's the question.
Is that too much to ask?
It's a very noble cause to ask such.
That's a very small matter to ask. And therefore, I will urge our leaders to moderate their quest for power and to moderate their power in terms of, in the 1960s and the 70s, the main preoccupation of a president in Africa, was to stay in power.
All right.
And because of the Cold War, a lot of them were given imaginary enemies. The Cold War produced imaginary enemies.
Lots of them.
In students, in writers, in
Civil society.
in lecturers, in civil society. They were created to be monsters, and the president was always seeing them as. So the preoccupation for the head of state in Africa was how to stay in power. And a lot of state resources were basically spent to ensure the president was in power.
Sustaining.
And there were so many imaginary enemies. Let me tell you finally, when the Cold War ended, if you wish, and liberalization and democratization swept across Africa, and multipartyism was introduced, a lot of the people were fearing, I don't want to name names, some of them were my friends, some are still alive, they could not even get a crowd of 10 people.
They couldn't.
They had, and yet state resources that had been deployed to always monitor them. The dreaded special branch in universities and everywhere to monitor mtu akifungua mdomo. When that guy was told form a political party, he formed. Then he was telling, kwenda City Stadium, ongela watu, there was not even a single person. To show you, presidents in Africa had been made to believe that their thrones were always in danger of disappearing, and therefore dealt with so many enemies who are never really enemies, useless people, small people who could not hurt a fly.
Very well.
We would not want to be in the same situation as a country. We want, like I began by saying, the president, according to me, is so safe, is so secure, and 2027, like I said, was reassured. It was just a walkover for the president, and everybody knew it. Honestly, even in Raila, they must know it. And therefore, getting to sit down to talk as brothers
should not be a tall order.
To be able to ensure we don't bring our country down,
or anarchy prevailing.
We don't have situations such as those of today, because the impact of today will be felt many years to come.
And Winnie Odinga will be there to witness, or June Ruto.
Whoever it is. But so long as you are not selfish, you must think always beyond yourself. I know there are people who are so selfish, they don't even think about Kenya in terms of their children. They are so selfish. They are so greedy for money and power. They don't even think about their grandchildren. So long as they are comfortable with the money they have stolen, with the power they have grabbed, they are okay. It never bothers them that some of the things they do, like the stealing you engage in of public resources, will ultimately catch up with your granddaughter.
Absolutely.
You see, that level of stupidity or greed is what sometimes baffles me.
Very well. I know it is 9 p.m. I'm seeing quite a number of you heading over to the other side on our on our sister channels, Citizen TV, NTV, and all those to get updated on today's developments on the other side. So we'll allow you to do that. But before then, let me sample in some of your comments. The over 1,060 of you are still here with us, and over 367 on Facebook. Let me just sample some of them real quick, and I'm going to start with Regan Otoyo. The day I'll be the president of Kenya, God willing, Manyora would have a place on my advisory board. I need advancing philosophers, not intelligent people. Well, we wait to see. He said he's going to launch his presidential bid in 2026. Should Ruto not address the challenges Kenya is facing and getting governance right? We wait to see if he'll, actually, who will be his running mate? Most likely, Wajakoya. We wait to see. Still, someone here says, Daniel Angoia on Facebook, smart people don't insult those they hate. Educated people are tolerant. All right, I'm seeing one more. Regan Otoyo says, power and education can be an illusion without understanding. Very true there. Let me head over to YouTube as I sample some of your feedback. But also at this juncture, let me thank all of you who've tuned in and all those who've supported us using our M-Pesa number displayed on your screen, our till number, and also the super chat option. It's still open. It doesn't close. You can send in whatever donations you have for this, for rollout of such productions, because we'll be doing this weekly. We actually do that daily, but weekly basis we have 3 live sessions on Monday, on Wednesday, and on Friday at 7:30 p.m. We are still here camping tent in here to bring you the latest with regards to this call for mass actions. So it can only be in order if you also join us on the bandwagon and go further and support us using your resources. Many of you saying this conversation has really been informative. We don't take it for granted. Thank you so much. And let me just get two more. And as Jad sends me the name of those who've used Super Chat, Moses Njuguna says, it is high time Ruto brings over Raila for dialogue. Jamia Daniel says, maandamano zilianza kitambo since 2007 mpaka sasa maandamano haijawahi mfikisha State House. Wait to see. Herman Manyora has really explained on that someday a revolution will yield the much needed fruits. Well, let's stop it at that and allow you to also cross over and go on other engagements of the day, including watching news on our sister channels. My name is Richard Mwenji. It has been a pleasure to have you on board on this particular edition of Siasa Brigade, whereby we have been delving on matters Raila's call for mass actions and his subsequent rollout of mass actions every coming Monday. We wait to see how that will unfold in the fullness of time. But on your side, it is just a clarion call that you really take care of yourself. Even on those Mondays, you really have to watch over the shoulder of your brother and sister on the streets and in whatever part of the country you'll be domiciled in. Until next time on Siasa Brigade, my name is Richard Mwenje. Always a pleasure. Head over to Twitter and let's advance this conversation. I'm at Mwenje Richard on Twitter, at H Manyora on Twitter. Have a good night.